I often see comments, be it on my content or others' content, that seems contradictory to the science presented. For example, the majority of scientists believe that having elevated levels of ApoB, which is a marker of potentially atherogenic cholesterol-carrying lipoproteins, is a risk factor for heart disease. Yet, when taking people's personal stories into account, you'll often find contradictions to the data presented, like these. I've been running a total cholesterol of 250 and I feel great. Or this one, 5 years ago, my cholesterol was 385, but I didn't really care because I felt fine. That second one has a twist that I'll share with you at the end. This kind of mentality is worrying to me because while I do believe people should make their own choices, I still find it important for them to have the appropriate information for them to be able to make their own choices in an informed manner. Something is getting lost between the science and how people feel, and I would posit that only one matters. Obviously, I'm going to say that the science matters more, but why? When people are feeling great living their lives by not following the science. The reason is that our feelings are incredibly deceptive when it comes to our health. The old adage of trust your gut doesn't apply well when discussing one's own health, up to a point, but I'll get into the exceptions in just a few minutes. Let's continue to use the example of lipoproteins containing cholesterol and heart disease risk. You can feel fantastic all the way up to the point where you rapidly don't. A prime example is called stable angina. Stable angina describes a situation where your heart vessels are clogged, but you don't know it. In your day-to-day life, you feel great because although your heart vessel may be 80% clogged, it can still deliver the necessary blood flow. However, if you begin increasing the demand on the heart, like through exercise or an emotional situation or yard work, the heart's demand for blood increases and you begin to feel chest pains. Now, this isn't to say that everyone is walking around with a clogged artery. What it highlights is just because you feel great does not mean that you are actually healthy. To illustrate this, I recently interviewed my uncle who experienced this very problem. He felt great throughout the day and then went to exercise and had a heart attack. I guess specific to before the cardiac arrest, did you feel bad in any way? Like however you would define that, did you feel off like the day of or a few days before or a few months before?
No, not neither. Neither event was of any difference as far as the way I felt. As I said, in 2010, June 15th was the day of the surgery. That previous weekend, which was about the 11th, I had been working in the yard just like I normally work. I wear myself out quite a lot when I when I work. I always have for the last 30 or 40 years. So no, I didn't feel any different whatsoever. There was no indication to me that there was going to be a heart problem associated with whatever, nothing,
Right.
nothing. I didn't feel anything.
You see, your body isn't functioning at the rev limiter. It isn't maxing out its physiological processes to keep you alive. So your heart at rest is functioning drastically lower than its maximum capacity. The same is true for your kidneys, and for some is especially underwhelming when looking at their brain. Sorry, I couldn't resist. But in all seriousness, your body's working at rest under its maximum capacity. So if you are doing long-term damage to it, you would never know because it doesn't affect you until you reach a point where it bottlenecks your performance. So, for example, having 20% clogged arteries may never be an issue because even if you exercise, you can still achieve your maximum performance without the clogged arteries presenting a bottleneck. However, if you continue to clog your arteries, you may reach a point where you encroach into that maximum. And if it continues for years, you may encroach into your body's minimum requirements. And that's where things get scary. The whole time, you have been feeling great, no symptoms, but progressively, your body has been experiencing a worse and worse health profile. Additionally, simply because people have elevated risk in one risk profile, like the aforementioned ApoB, doesn't mean that they will experience heart issues, because it's possible that they take great care of themselves in other risk factors like exercise, weight management, smoking habits, stress, and so on. It also matters when and for how long the risk factor has been present. So, something like elevated ApoB starting at 60 years old is likely less detrimental than elevated ApoB starting at 30 years old. It also matters how high the risk factor is. So, like 150 milligrams versus 250 milligrams, genetics, and much more. The point is, there are many considerations to take into account, but one's own feelings are a remarkably bad indication of one's own health. But I did mention a caveat earlier. So, why might your feelings on your health matter? Well, look, it's you that has to make your health decisions. And if you feel better doing one thing over another and you choose to follow your positive feelings, then there is something to be said in terms of a benefit to mental health. I don't think that you should be excluded from the conversation so long as the physical health effects are presented and a person is well informed. Also, I would add that if you are willing to continue to experiment with your diet and your health habits, you may be able to find a happy medium, a point where you can feel great, as well as turn your biomedical markers like ApoB, blood glucose, insulin, etc., towards healthy ranges as well. The bottom line is, I don't want you to be deceived into thinking that your current positive feelings are necessarily a representation of your long-term physical health. It could very well be, but for us to be certain of both, we need to compare our personal results mentally and physically with the scientific data.